This is the Yorkshire Businesswoman podcast, supporting, inspiring and promoting women in business.
Hello and welcome to the brand new series of the Yorkshire Businesswoman podcast. My name is Clemy Crowther and I will be the host for the upcoming season. I am so excited to be here at the Distorted Studios in Leeds today, filming our first episode of the series. And today I'm delighted to have with us Freda Shafi, who is a proud member of the Yorkshire Businesswoman in the creative industry. Okay, so today I am joined by advocate for all things Yorkshire, keen member of the Yorkshire Businesswoman, artist and creative industry professional, the lovely Freda Shafi. Hello, Freda.
Hi, Clem.
How are you doing?
Thank you for that lovely introduction. I'm doing very well, thank you.
Great stuff. Lovely to have you here today. I'm so excited. We met recently, didn't we, at a Yorkshire Businesswoman event?
We did indeed.
And we just
naturally clicked.
Absolutely. So today I'm just going to ask you a few questions about yourself and about your career and how you got to where you are today. So the first question, can you just tell me a little bit about your background and about who you are and what your current position is?
As I said, I'm Freda Shafi and I have been working in the cultural and creative industries for over 25 years now. I started as an artist, I actually qualified as an artist, and from there I evolved into working with the creative industries and galleries, museums, everything associated with engaging with diversity. And I use the word evolve because it's art is a very natural conduit to evolve into several different professions. And that's what I've done, really. I've moved in the cultural industries as an artist, as somebody who engages with the media, and currently I wear a few hats in the food industry. I do a lot around food, photography, photographing and styling food, but also have been called in to do some guest chef appearances from time to time.
Amazing.
And as a member of the Yorkshire Businesswoman, I write a column for the Businesswoman and a few other food columns as well.
Amazing. And I follow you on Instagram and I see all your yummy dishes that you create and I think, oh, lovely, yummy. They all look so perfect.
I think a lot of it is choreographed, so I won't lie. It does not present like that when it's at the table, and certainly not on my plate. But for the purposes of food styling and engaging with an audience to say everybody can do this, and I think that's really key to what I do. It's all about accessibility. It's making sure nobody feels afraid of cooking. I created a soup yesterday in 10 minutes, and the actual engagement was, wow, I didn't know it was so easy. And that's what I love to see. I love to see people feeling comfortable and confident that they can do exactly what I do.
Absolutely. And it's quite a unique sort of area to get into. How did it all start? Did you always have this passion or did you just sort of fall into the area that you are in?
As a young child, we didn't have very much growing up in the way of devices and media, so we did what most children of our era did. We played out and we had very few things in the way of toys and resources, so we would invent things. And with my inventive head, I was always, one piece of chalk could have kept me occupied for days. So I drew, and one of the best pieces of advice ever given to me from one of my art teachers was just draw on any surface. And to my mum's dismay, I did just that. But jokes aside, I would draw at every opportunity I could get and realised it was just my natural calling, really, the arts and creativity. And it was nurtured by the school. They always recognised that I had a passion for it and a talent for it, which came from practice, really. It wasn't, I think when you have a natural ability to do something or a propensity in a certain direction, when it's encouraged, you can really nurture that skill. So I was encouraged into the arts, and I went, one of the first of my generation in my family, the youngest of 5. I was the first to go to art college, actually to university, art college, then university. So I took it from there, Clem.
Amazing. That brings me on to my next question about university. But just on that, what you just said then about it is so unique, and that's what I love about art. There's no sort of rule book to it.
No.
It is your thoughts, your feelings. You can create something so unique and special to you. It's great. So the next question then, just going back onto college and university. So you just mentioned that you attended university and higher education, and if so, what university was that, and which course did you study?
I studied initially, after I'd done my A-levels, arts are an interesting discipline to go down, because there's always a pre-university course, it's called a foundation course, to determine what your speciality is or where your passion lies. I did a foundation at Bradford College, and I realised I really loved painting, and I was going towards sculpture as well. So that was very definitive, the foundation course. And from there, I got a place at 2 universities. One was actually Leeds Poly, and then the other one was Leeds Uni. Leeds Uni was situated on the M1, believe it or not. It was Bretton Hall College, and that was a 2-hour trek.
Wow.
So the path of least resistance would have been Leeds Poly, but I took my mum with me to an open day at Bretton Hall, and she insisted I go there, even though it was an extra hour commute. And I did commute during my college years, so 2 hours each way.
Wow.
Is that something that would be done today?
Commitment, absolutely.
Something I do recount to my children daily about how lucky they are to,
absolutely.
to be driven 2 miles up the road. 2 hours was commitment. So I went to Bretton Hall, and it was the University of Leeds.
Amazing. And it, of course, obviously paid off to this day. And university life, after university, what did you do then? What was your sort of first job in the industry?
Well, after university, I got one of probably the biggest roles that I felt was a bit too big for me. When you commute 2 hours each way, that's dedication.
Absolutely.
So I would make sure I was there at 9 and I would leave at 5. My lecturers saw my dedication and my diligence, and I was very hardworking. I made the most of that time. So my first job is I was recruited as a lecturer.
Oh, wow.
At the university
Amazing.
I graduated from. At the time, I was only very young. I was 24.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of mature students. And as much as I absolutely loved the role and felt very natural in it, I felt almost that it was a bit too big for me, and there were other things I really wanted to do.
Yeah.
I did do my master's, by the way, before I got the job as the lecturer.
Right, yeah.
And that was in London. So
what did you do? What was that master's in?
Again, I don't want to keep using the word lucky, because I think I engineered it a certain way. And because of my hard work and diligence, again, unheard of in my generation, but I won a scholarship to probably one of the best art colleges in England, and very renowned across the world. It was Central St.Martin's.
Oh, wow.
I don't think my mum would have been able to afford me to go to there, but having won the scholarship, it was a fabulous opportunity. And again, I grabbed it with both hands. So I did my master's, fine art and art theory. And I have to say, the art theory was something I really engaged in and explored to the nth degree. And people underestimate the arts. They think it's, maybe a little bit fluffy, but it's absolutely not. I saw it as a science. I saw it as a way of exploring the world in a scientific way. I understood maths a lot better for it. I understood the faculties of how we view the world from our vantage point, how we look, how we explore space. So I became a site-specific installation artist.
Wow, amazing. So when you'd moved from London back up to Yorkshire, how long were you lecturing for, and what did you do once you'd moved on from your lecturing?
I lectured for about a year at Bretton Hall.
Yeah.
The college where I'd graduated. I absolutely loved it. But I was there for a year and then naturally moved into other spaces that were opening up. It was the early 90s and digital media, the internet was on the rise.
Yeah.
And my generation way ahead of you in age. So it was called the information superhighway, and we were all intrigued by this superhighway thing. So I kind of learnt it from scratch and explored media. I worked with Bradford University. I got a job at Bradford University and worked in again, it was the creative and cultural industries. Raised money to do work with disenfranchised communities, and that's something that I haven't mentioned, but it's very, very pertinent to my whole ethic, is engaging with underrepresentation. And I've been doing it for over 25 years. So it's not because it's a hot topic and, you know, we're looking at diversity. It's been going on a very, very long time. And I think my generation were probably the first to engage with the fact that there is a lack of people from diverse backgrounds, and we're not just talking colour, we're talking levels of ability. We are talking financial backgrounds as well, employment, low employment communities, anything that disenfranchises a community is a barrier to access for me. So my passion was about engaging with people who would not ordinarily engage in arts and creative industries. There was pockets of funding where I would write projects for young people who had fallen off the school system and engage them in creative projects, but I'd always make sure I was doing something that was relevant to them. So I would ask them what they wanted to do. And we did so many fun projects around making films, making music, making the most of mobile phone technology as well. So it was a brilliant time, 90s, late 90s and 2000.
And I think over the years it has been something that arts and the creative industry, it is becoming a trend and the future. You know, there's so much you can do with it, and you know, there's so many like groups and so many things in the community you can get involved with, from anything from art classes to even putting on events and, you know, big things like that. There's such a big variety of things to get involved with nowadays, isn't there?
And again, I will use the word again, I keep repeating it, but it's a natural conduit to engage people, to get people talking, breaking down barriers in communities. I worked with Joseph Rowntree Foundation. They had a huge pot of money in about 2008. It's £5 million actually that they dedicated to working with social inclusion in Bradford. I was given the role as coordinating cultural events and supporting events that did just that, broke down barriers, engaged people in areas of the industry that would never ordinarily have an opportunity to do so. We saw some brilliant filmmaking projects with women from the Pakistani community, right through to projects working with young men in various parts of Bradford, again, that were seen as deprived. So we did some brilliant work across the whole of Bradford, actually.
And I think Bradford Literature Festival is a big one now, isn't it?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And just on sort of your current position, can you tell me a little bit about what you're currently doing? I know when we were speaking before, you say you wear various hats at the moment. So just want to talk to me a little bit about what you're currently up to.
Definitely. Well, a life-changing move in 2009. Let's fast forward. A life-changing move to 2009 to live in Australia.
Wow.
Yes. I was there for 10 years. So I tried to reinvent myself in the arts, in the media, in the cultural sector out there. So there was a lot of knocking on doors that went on. As we started on the Sunshine Coast, actually, which the closest city is Brisbane. So that was the East Coast. So I knocked on several doors in the arts sector. Very, very hard to break in to a new country and a new community. So within a few months, actually, I fell pregnant. So then that put a stop to my work for a short time because it was my first child. So I dedicated a lot of time to raising my first child, but then I couldn't sit still. There was a passion there. I had to be doing something creative. And living in a community that was not familiar with Indian food.
Right.
I'm Pakistani. My ethnic origin is Pakistani.
Yeah.
And the food that we've made all my life actually was Indian Pakistani from the Indian subcontinent. That's where my mum grew up. So she passed on all her skills. That's my second passion. So I drew on my second passion and started to cook, and noticed that the neighbours were knocking on the door when certain aromas were wafting in their direction.
Oh.
And I would hear, so that's definitely not the shrimp on the barbie.
Yeah.
Young lady, what is it? So then I would tell them that, well, this is actually Indian food, this is Pakistani food, this is my cultural heritage, to which they were very intrigued. And there started my second passion and
Amazing.
I suppose vocation in life. So very interesting and very important for me to say that I would never limit myself to one discipline. So whilst I'm an artist, look inside at whatever other skill set you have. We grew up in an age where, again, there weren't that many devices. There wasn't that much in the way of resources that we have today. So we grew up, we were in the era where cooking was all from scratch. Everything we did was from scratch. Mum taught us skills of sewing, knitting, making food from scratch, painting, drawing. We were polymaths. We had lots of skills at our disposal. So I try and instill that in my children and the next generation. So passions will come, in various forms. Going back to my story, I started to create food and I was encouraged to create a little blog, which I did, which kind of exploded. And there was lots of people in Australia interested in my culinary heritage, which is very diverse. My parents are from the Indian subcontinent, so it's an Indian and Pakistani palette, so I can cross into various different culinary regions easily, and that's something my mum gave me. So there grew Freda Shafi Spice It Up. That's my Instagram page where I create food from scratch daily. I see that as an art as well.
And I love following you.
Thank you.
I love following you, all you behind the scenes and all the yummy dishes. You'll have to teach me one day. You have to get me in your kitchen.
But I try and do that in the stories and the highlights. I try and document everything from scratch, really. And from that, my food columns, I'm working with the Yorkshire Businesswoman and various other publications, and it feels like it has a cascading effect.
Absolutely.
And I think because I am very passionate, it doesn't matter what age you are, it really doesn't. If you love doing what you're doing, then it's very hard to contain your passions and channel them into things that you absolutely love. And even bigger bonus is when you get recognised for them as well.
Definitely.
Given the opportunities. And I do work hard for them.
Absolutely. We were chatting earlier and you've got something very exciting up your sleeve, haven't you, that you've been working on. So I'll talk about the pandemic. So it was difficult for everybody, but for you something grew. Do you want to explain to us a little bit about your upcoming project that you've got?
I will. I've been sitting on a secret for quite some years, actually, and I'd say it's pre-pandemic. Pandemic crystallised it.
Right.
It enabled so many people to sit and contemplate and give them the space to evaluate and create. So you saw a rise in a number of businesses from home. You saw a rise in a number of books and things that people would never be given that good fortune of having time, and time is such a precious thing.
Definitely.
So I've been carrying something around with me for decades, actually. So it came to fruition during the pandemic because I actually sat down and wrote it. And therein lies the a little clue. I wrote a book.
Wow.
So I've written a book which is due to be released. We're looking at autumn, and I sent it to many publishers, as you do, and do not ever be disheartened by a number of no's before you get the yes.
Yeah.
And I did get a yes from a fabulous publishing company based in York, Fisher King, who had faith in me to publish my book and my writings. And interestingly enough, you'll be very surprised to learn that it's a novel.
Amazing.
You would think it was either an art book or a recipe book.
You would.
But it is actually a novel, and it is a novel with recipes. And another surprise is there is no photography.
Oh.
And a complete paradox to everything I do in the arts industry. A novel with recipes and no photography.
Wow. I'm really looking forward to hearing all about that and to watching your Instagram and
Thank you.
seeing all your sneak previews.
I will be giving little jewels and snippets away here and there, but
Yes.
I'm very excited, and I'll only be giving a certain amount away today, I'm afraid. But yes, I'm excited. It's a novel that I'll give you a little bit. It pertains to life in the 70s and how I believe that we are coming full circle in many ways. The cottage industries, making things from scratch, it was second nature to us. We grew up, everything, Mum would take an old chair and make a Chesterfields out of it.
Yeah.
And now you see that on Instagram. You see people refashioning, remodelling things from scratch. There was also the strikes of the 70s. There was the power cuts of the 70s. Having lived through that and come through relatively unscathed, I feel that, we have a certain level of adeptness, if that's the right word. But I wanted to crystallise certain things about life back then and how relevant it is now. A lot of people will wonder what the relevance is, but I think it will reach quite a big audience, actually. A lot of people will identify with it from whatever age group you are and background as well.
Fantastic.
And it's a comedy.
Oh.
I thought I'd throw that in as well because you have to really laugh.
Yeah. Just on that, apart from your novel, what else have you got in the pipeline, Freda?
Well, there are other aspects of the novel, which, again, I have to sit on those as a secret at the moment because they haven't quite come to fruition, and I will talk about them when the time is right. But with me being a very visual person, there's a lot of strands to this novel, and I see it going into various other media. And let's just leave it there. I'm happy with my columns. I'm happy with writing. I love writing. And I think I discovered a passion for creative writing actually during lockdown, as many of us did, juggling our homes and bringing the children up. I think we really reached in and looked at ourselves and, where our passions lie.
Yeah, and I'm seeing that a lot with my industry. A lot of my industry friends have gone freelance, or a lot of people are having that sort of other job where it's their hobby that they now bring into life. Like creative things like creating greetings cards, to people having their own bakery business.
Brilliant.
On the side. It definitely did give you that sort of wake up to what do I want?
I'm all for a side hustle.
Yes,
that
absolutely.
becomes a hustle and a profession. Why not?
Yeah, why not? Definitely. And you've certainly taught me that, Freda, since we met. You always say to me, keep going.
Thank you. Well, that's an honour that you say that, Clem, because I am very inspired by you.
Oh.
So I actually feel honoured that you've even made a reference to that. But I'd like to think that being the age I am, I can impart nuggets of experience to your generation and my children's generation. And I really do hope that, they kind of take it on and appropriate it in their own ways. Because even whatever generation you are, I think it's incredible what you've got at your fingertips now. I do not see it as an encumbrance. I do not see media as an encumbrance. I don't even see social media as an encumbrance. I feel that it's so creative. If there is detrimental sides and dark sides to it, obviously, with regards to, self-esteem and comparisons, being very mindful of that is very important. But once you have got a good handle on that, it really is a fabulous opportunity to just reach any possibilities. I see some amazing film work going on Instagram. Everybody's Steven Spielberg. What can I say?
Well, and that's the thing, like you say, the opportunities from this social media, from Instagram, they're endless. You can contact anybody that you want to nowadays on Instagram by just dropping a simple DM, and you never know where that might lead. And keeping up those relationships, you never know who's watching you.
Definitely. All you need to do is tag somebody who you absolutely love, and if they are somebody that is high profile in the media, in the spotlight, and they see you and they recognise you, it is a buzz. It really
definitely.
is.
And I'll just ask you one more question before I ask a couple of questions about Yorkshire. So what advice would you give your younger self?
I always say I have no regrets. Whatever my path and my journey was to get to where I am today, that was the path.
Yeah.
And there are things I would do differently. I probably would be more confident and maybe see things with a bit more clarity.
Yeah.
There was a point, definitely in the arts industry, where it was a bit fuzzy and, there was, it wasn't as definitive as I may have wanted it to be. But just having the confidence to know that even in a very fluid discipline, having that focus was very, very important. And maybe just going back and saying to myself, you're on the right path. Just keep going, just keep exploring and pushing. In terms of where I am today, I would not ever try to redesign that because I am where I am and I embrace every opportunity that's been given to me.
Definitely. And I think it's so important to reflect as well into it and think, well, without that opportunity that I had last year or even 5 years ago, I wouldn't be where I am now. And like you say, it's all that sort of plan, it's all that stepping stone to get to the next opportunity. And, without having the previous job, I wouldn't have met this person and this person that then has now led me on to this. It's all a stepping stone, isn't it?
I agree. And a very wise woman once said to me, sometimes even if your paths cross, even for an instant with somebody, you will never know what opportunity has been bestowed in that 1 minute transaction of a conversation. A seed may have been planted in your head to take you in a different journey on your life path. So never underestimate these very, very, what would the word be for it, but just transient moments with strangers.
100%. You never know who's watching you as well. So now the last part of the conversation, just a couple of questions about Yorkshire. So I'm going to ask you, Freda, what is your favourite part of Yorkshire and why? Put you on the spot there.
I am a Shipley girl, born and bred in Shipley, so I absolutely love Shipley. And I think Shipley is very, very underrated. I did a lot of research into the history of Shipley. It actually translates as sheep on the Lee.
Oh.
The Lees are usually hills and pastoral scenes. So it was a grazing ground, I guess, for sheep and cattle going back in history. It's very green. It's beautiful. Where we grew up, we could see the whole of the Aire Valley from Ilkley Moor right through to the top of Yeadon.
Wow.
So I would look at that daily and be inspired by the beauty of Yorkshire and Shipley and Shipley Glen and all of the natural beauty of Shipley, but also the town centre, which seems to have kind of decayed a little bit, but it has a very rustic charm. And I really do hope that now that Bradford has a city of culture, something will be invested in reinventing Shipley and putting it back on the map because it does date back hundreds and hundreds of years.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was mentioned in the Doomsday Book.
Amazing. And which Yorkshire businesswoman do you most admire and why?
Oh my goodness, now that's putting me on the spot. There are several. There are several. I absolutely loved and adored the late Kay Mellor for everything that she represented in terms of working in an industry that was very male dominated. There were several barriers to access, which she smashed through those barriers.
Yes. Yeah.
She engaged. She continues. Her legacy lives on through the work that she has done and set in stone and paved the way for women of my generation and your generation, Clem, and many more to come. And I think she was a trailblazer.
Yeah.
And I really admire her for so many reasons. The late Kay Mellor.
Oh, bless. Absolutely. She's left such a legacy, hasn't she?
Definitely.
Yeah. Just one more, because I love these Yorkshire questions. So what would you say your perfect day out in Yorkshire would be?
So my perfect day out in Yorkshire would be to take a lovely picnic with my children, and I would try and recreate a scene from my past, actually, where my mum would give us a packed lunch, and we'd all walk to the park, and we would open our packed lunches. And back then it was only white bread, unfortunately, but I would take a seeded loaf or a sourdough bread, and in it I would put like an onion bhaji. I don't know if you know about an onion bhaji. It's one of the tastiest street food snacks. Sandwich it between 2 slices of bread with a big dollop of ketchup and chutney, and Bob's your uncle. You will never go back. So I would happily sit in a park with my children on the swings and just doing very, very rustic things that don't involve anything digital, running, playing, storytelling. My children love stories. They love stories of me growing up. I have them in stitches. And we'd be sat there eating pakora sandwiches, sipping on hot tea, and watching the sun go down.
Oh, that sounds perfect. And it is the smallest, simplest things that can really, no phones, no technology. And you just sometimes need that, it's just simple things that can really...
Nature is a leveller.
Yeah.
It brings everybody back down to the same plane. We're all the same in nature.
Definitely. Well, Freda, it's been absolutely fantastic to chat to you today. Thank you so much
for
coming on our podcast.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. It's been an honour, Clem. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us, and don't forget to subscribe. Yorkshire Businesswoman is a membership network that supports and inspires businesswomen from small independents to large corporates within Yorkshire. Yorkshire Businesswoman exists to support, inspire and promote businesswomen from across the region. And it offers a premium print and digital publication, in-person, inclusive networking, social support, and of course this podcast, which is open to both members and to guests as well. And to join us or to find out more, visit our website on www.yorkshirebusinesswoman.co.uk or find us on Instagram or LinkedIn.
This is the Yorkshire Businesswoman podcast. This podcast was produced by This Is Distorted.